Hey everybody, how you doing? How are you all doing? Welcome to lesson 4. This is the sort of the overview of the grammar for our Zoom session, and I'm going to share a screen with you right now. So let's see what's happening in lesson 4. The first thing we study in lesson 4 is the grammar of the verb ir. Now, ir is a very irregular verb. It means to go and is a very useful verb. So let's take a look at the conjugations. You can see how irregular it is. Yo voy, tú vas, él, ella, and usted va. Nosotros vamos, ellos, ellas, and ustedes van. There's your conjugations, voy, vas, va, vamos, and van. The conjugations of ir are almost always followed by the preposition a. When a comes directly before the word el, we combine them to say al. And, this example will explain exactly what I mean by all that, right? So if I ask the question, vas a la biblioteca, you need the a in there because what you're saying is, are you going to the library? Well, biblioteca happens to be feminine, so that's fairly straightforward. But in this one, I'm not going to the library, I'm going to the museum. So I say, no, yo voy a el museo, which combines to yo voy al museo, and then we're all done with that. So there's your conjugations of the verb ir. And the other thing that we wanted to check on was this. We can use the verb ir to say not just where we're going, but also what we're going to do. So here's an example. Mis amigos van al parque. Now, they're going to the park. What are they going to do there? Van a correr y jugar. They're going to run and play. All right. So there's the things you can do with the verb ir. Got to memorize those conjugations because they're very irregular. And let's move on to our next topic. Stem changing verbs. We actually know some of these things. We've studied 2 stem changing verbs, but we'll talk about general stem changing verbs. The next to last syllable of any verb is called the stem. And some verbs, not all, in fact, I wouldn't even say many, but some verbs are known as stem changing verbs because they have a spelling change in the stem of their conjugations. So there's three different kinds of stem changing verbs that we're going to take a look at. The first one we're going to look at is where an E changes to an IE. So here's our verb. The verb empezar means to begin. Here's my ending. It's an AR verb. Here's my stem, which is the E. Now you just have to know that the verb empezar is going to be a stem changing verb. They're not going to give you this any other times. You don't see this in writing or anything like that. You just have to know that the verb empezar is an IE stem changing verb. So where does that change happen? It happens in the yo form, the tu form, the el, ella, and usted forms. Does not happen in the nosotros form ever. And it happens in ellos, ellas, and ustedes. So let's take a look. Yo empiezo, there's my stem change. Tú empiezas, él, ella, usted empieza. Nosotros empezamos. Ellos, ellas, and ustedes empiezan. Notice that the nosotros form never stem changes. And here's a couple of examples. Mis clases empiezan a las 8 de la mañana, and mi papá empieza a trabajar en 2 semanas. Note that the verb empezar is almost always followed by the preposition a. Okay, it's just you put it in after you conjugate this verb, you put in the little preposition a. So there is an IE stem changing verb for you. Let's scoot on down. There's another kind of stem changing verb, and it's where an O in the stem changes to a UE. So here's our verb volver. Here's my stem change. I'll just note that for you. And the verb volver means to return. Here's my O stem. And the conjugations it's similar to the verb empezar, just a different stem change and a different ending, of course. Yo vuelvo, tú vuelves, él, ella, usted vuelve, nosotros volvemos, no stem change. Ellos, ellas, and ustedes vuelven. Again, the nosotros form does not stem change. And here is an example. Raúl y yo volvemos a la universidad el lunes. Okay. Now, the last kind of stem changing verb is an I stem changing verb. And we'll take a look at this. The E in certain verbs changes to an I. The verb pedir means to request something, to ask for something, or to order your food in a restaurant. It's an I stem changing verb. So here's my conjugations. Pido, pides, pide, pedimos. Now there's an I in there, but that's just the nosotros form. The stem did not change. Okay, no stem changing in nosotros forms. Ellos, ellas, and ustedes piden. So as I mentioned, the verb pedir can mean to order your food. So let's look at an example here. En el restaurante yo siempre pido una hamburguesa, pero Luisa y Pedro siempre piden una pizza. Okay? Just another stem changing verb that you need to know. And the last thing we're going to take a look at in lesson 4 are verbs with irregular yo forms. And we already know a few of them. The verb estar has a yo form of estoy, tener has tengo, and venir has vengo. An irregular yo form verb, the yo form is basically irregular, but all the other conjugations follow the normal pattern of conjugation, even if that includes a stem changing verb, like with tener or venir. So I picked an example of the verb hacer. Hacer means to do or to make. And here is this clearly irregular. You wouldn't normally expect to see a G in here. So the yo form is hago, and then the rest of it's regular. Haces, hace, hacemos, and hacen. Okay. Here is a list of the irregular yo forms that you must know to be successful in this class and to learn Spanish basically. Notice that I included the stem changes for the 3 of these 10 verbs that are stem changing. There are other stem changes, by the way, other stem changing verbs, sorry, I meant to say. But we don't have to learn them all. We're going to focus on these ones because they're the ones that you use most often. So the yo form of this I stem changing verb decir, which means to say or to tell, is digo. Tener, which we've already seen is tengo. Venir is vengo. Hacer is hago. And then from down here, it's poner, pongo, salir, salgo, traer, traigo, oír, oigo, suponer, supongo. And our last one is the verb ver, veo, which doesn't look that irregular, does it? But here's the deal. To conjugate this verb normally, you would drop off the ER and you'd have a V. You add your O for the yo form, you get vo. But nobody says vo, we say veo. So technically, it's irregular, but it's not real hard to remember because it just sounds right to say yo veo. But you can see that 9 out of 10 of these verbs have a G in the yo form, which makes it a little bit easier to remember. Maybe that won't be all that tough for you. Okay, that is our lesson. That is what you need to know for Unit 4, Lesson 4, I should say. So I'm going to end this video now. I hope that you have a great day and that you ask me questions all the time using Ask Your Instructor if you have any. All right? Okay, bye, folks. Hasta luego.